So, if you haven't heard, there's a bit of talk about who might replace the All Blacks coach Steve Hansen going forward, seeing as he is, he's finished up as All Blacks coach now. New Zealand Rugby announced that they've invited 26 people to apply. When I saw that, I didn't assume it was just for the head coach role. I thought it was some kind of, I don't know, maybe like also including other support coaches, assistant coaches, or maybe forwards coaches or something. But from what I've read, it seems to be just the head coach role, which seems like a whole lot of people to be applying, and very few of them, at least not that many, seem to be genuine, realistic prospects have taken over the All Blacks. So I've seen a few sites speculating on who some of the candidates might be. The main names are all the same. Here's Rugby Pass's list. I'll try to remember to put the link to this article in the description because they do put a bit of a bio onto each of the coaches. But here's some of the guys that they have suggested could be on the 26 invitees list. But yeah, 26 seems like a whole lot. I would have thought there's only kind of a handful of realistic prospects myself. But you guys can let me know your thoughts. I would imagine the main choice for the people making the decision, I think Graham Henry's now on the panel of people deciding, is whether to stick with the current staff. And that's the first name on the board. That's Ian Foster, to kind of keep that continuity going like they did from Graham Henry to Hansen. Do you do from Hansen to Foster? Or do you switch things up and kind of keep it consistent? The All Blacks have had a mixed record with that kind of thing historically. If you lost their World Cup, you pretty much lost your job as coach. But then, Wayne Smith quit the job before he was finished in his tenure. And Graham Henry managed to keep his job after losing in 2007. So there's not a set pattern, but it is an interesting one because we are now back to having lost the World Cup. If we'd won, then I would have suggested, my chair is squeaking, I would have suggested that Foster would probably be a shoo-in, but because we lost, maybe not. So yeah, Foster is the first guy off the rank, current All Blacks assistant coach. He's been a top boss before, but he's not been a title-winning powerhouse kind of head coach, but he has spent quite some time as assistant coach. He's been with the All Blacks setup since 2012, so he is certainly your inside guy. And I would say he's the front runner for sure. He's nobody's kind of popular choice, that's for sure. But he seems to be, I would imagine, the front runner based on what the All Blacks have done before. Scott Robertson is the current coach of the Crusaders. That guy has the Midas touch. Everything he touches seems to go golden. He's done work with Canterbury in the Mitre 10 Cup, and then he did work with the Crusaders, and he's virtually every season he's won the title. I think he started as an assistant. What does it say here? Started at Canterbury as an assistant. They won all the domestic titles except for one season. Hat-trick of titles with the Crusaders. World Under-20s crown with the Baby Blacks in 2015. So, I mean, he hasn't coached overseas, which is what the article says, which is a fair point. Look at Hansen and you look at Henry. They both coached overseas before coaching the All Blacks. So, whether that's a prerequisite, I don't know. Speaking of coaches who have coached overseas, Jamie Joseph, well, if he follows in the footsteps of Eddie Jones in terms of going from Japan to one of the top jobs in world rugby, no disrespect to Japan, then he's definitely a contender. He put the Japanese through to their first knockout stage, so he's done it at home. He won Super Rugby title. He turned the Highlanders around, so him and Tony Brown seem to be a thing. And you notice Tony Brown's not on his list because he's ruled himself out. He's basically said, whatever Jamie's doing, I'm going with him. So they seem to be pretty tight in their coaching. So, yeah, I would say that has to be your top three. Dave Rennie is also in the running, former Chiefs coach. Prior to this, the talk was about him potentially being Wallabies coach, and this article does also mention that. Under-20s crowns with New Zealand from 2008 to 2010. 2 Super Rugby titles with the Chiefs, and doing a pretty good job at Glasgow from what I've seen. So I would say still a contender. The next man they've got on their list is John Mitchell. And now, this may be a video that I go back to in a short while and eat my words, but I'm going to say, yeah, nah, that's not going to happen. He's a former coach of the All Blacks, current England assistant coach. He's coached the USA. He's coached the Bulls in Super Rugby. He's coached the Lions. He's been around the block, and he's done a really good job as the defence coach with England, but there's no way he's getting the All Blacks coach. That'll make a funny video if he gets it, but no, I'm going to say no. John McKee, the next guy, I'm also going to say not realistic. No disrespect to these guys. I mean, these guys are all top coaches in their own right. He's been coaching Fiji for a long time. They've turned into a pretty bloody good team under him, but from that job after that World Cup to the All Blacks, I cannot see it happening. Milton Haig, coach of Georgia. That guy's been in Georgia for a very long time. He has done his kind of earned his stripes in New Zealand rugby as well. 2 World Cups with Georgia, but no, not for the All Blacks job. Not going to happen. Steve Jackson, coach of Samoa at this World Cup. He's done work with the Blues. Auckland, no. I'm saying that's not realistic. Warren Gatland, I will leave him not crossed out based on his name and based on his experience, but the complications with him is the Lions tour, which is in 2021. He's already signed up to coach there. I can't see him getting out of that. So the Chiefs might be cool for him to leave for a year to go and do the Lions bit, but I cannot see that happening with New Zealand. Maybe I should just cross him off, shouldn't I? Yeah? I'll leave it. But yeah, I mean, he's done a bloody good job at Wales. It's just I don't think you can coach the Lions and the All Blacks at the same time. Who else have we got here? John Plumtree. Oh, man. I mean, he's coached in South Africa. He coached the Sharks. He's coached the Hurricanes here. He's been an assistant with the Hurricanes. So, I mean, it would be a heck of a long shot for him to get the job. But I'll leave him up there out of respect and the fact that he is currently based in New Zealand, which I figure would give him a slight edge. But honestly, that would be the longest, not quite the longest of long shots, but a pretty big long shot. Chris Boyd, he worked with Plumtree at the Hurricanes, currently with the Saints over in the Premiership, took the Hurricanes to their first title, which is true. I know, does it mention it in the article? No, it doesn't mention that he was kind of dissatisfied with the way it works in New Zealand, that once you get to Super Rugby, there doesn't seem to be a pathway to that top job in New Zealand, to the All Blacks coach. I guess he was kind of hinting at the fact that you got to be the assistant to get the job. So he was kind of critical of, especially once he'd signed to go overseas, that it's part of the reason he left, is there's no direct steps he can take to go from Hurricanes boss to the All Blacks boss. So he went overseas. I'll leave him up, but again, I think that would be a pretty big long shot. Pat Lamb over at Bristol, former Blues guy. I think the Blues have probably tainted his reputation enough to cut him off the list, despite the fact that he is a good coach in his own right. Everywhere else he's gone has gone pretty well. It's just the Blues really didn't work out. This article hints that maybe in the future, but yeah, definitely not now, I would say. Vern Cotter. This article actually mentions some stuff that I wasn't familiar with before. It said that he was the only other applicant, along with Hansen, for the All Black job following the departure of Graham Henry, so he missed out on that one to the assistant. So, I mean, he's done a lot of good work in Europe. I feel like there may be a bit too much of a disconnect between him and New Zealand. It's been a while since he's been back in New Zealand, so he's definitely still highly regarded here. So again, I'll leave him on the board, but I would consider it an extreme long shot for him. Simon Mannix at Poe. Again, we only hear bits and pieces of the news for him, so I knew he was in France. I thought, was it him or somebody else that quit their job in France? Was it last year to come back? Yeah, I think there would be a bit of Simon Mannix who, if he got the All Blacks job, to be fair. Kieran Crowley, he coached Canada. He coaches in the Pro 4 team right now, so he's, by all accounts, a pretty good coach as well. He's got a good record. There was a bit of talk that maybe Canada would be in a better place if he'd been able to get his contract renewed, but they didn't decide to do that. So, I can't. He's doing a good job at the moment, but still, from where he is now to All Blacks coach, I'm going to say no. Who else we got? Brad Moore, former assistant at Scarlets. Former assistant at the Crusaders. He's just taken the job at Scarlets. I'm going to say no. Aaron Major, coached at Leicester. Don't think that went that well. He's been coaching at the Highlanders. It hasn't gone that fantastically. Computer says no. Leon McDonald, coach at the Blues. He's the coach at the Blues. That kind of says enough. I'm a Blues fan, by the way. I'm going to say no. Brad Thorne at the Reds. Again, he's another guy who's doing a good job. I don't think his style perhaps fits where the All Blacks are at the moment. He's kind of the hard-nosed guy, and he's trying to bring back some of that kind of hard edge to the Reds. I do admire the work he's doing. He's very kind of heavy-handed, and I don't want this player, get them out. So he does like to have that control, but yeah, it's still legendary player, but I'm going to say no. Rob Penny has just gone over to the Tars. Yeah, I can't see that happening. Tana Umaga, come on, man. I'm a Blues fan. No. That reign didn't go well. Great All Black, but not as the All Blacks head coach. Mark Hammett, generally not that well liked in a lot of places in New Zealand, to be fair. Highlanders fans are generally not fans of Mark Hammett. He had that year at the Crusaders, the Sunwolves, but you don't go from assistant at the Highlanders to head coach of New Zealand. Tom Coventry is a guy who is really well regarded in New Zealand rugby. I could see him in the setup perhaps as some kind of other role. And to be fair, a lot of these other guys you could perhaps see in some kind of support role, but not the head coach role. And again, I think Tom Coventry is in that bucket. Robbie Deans, I think, is pretty happy in what he's doing in Japan. He applied for that job after 2007, and they reappointed Graham Henry, so he went and did the Wallabies thing. I think that ship has sailed, so no. Wayne Smith, again, another former All Blacks coach. I think he's kind of at the sunset years of his career. He's probably, again, pretty happy over Japan. Doesn't need the stress of taking on the All Blacks gig. I'm going to say no, but again, one of the smartest guys in rugby, so he's a great addition to any team. I just can't see him wanting to take it. And Todd Blackadder had the Crusaders for years, didn't manage to win a title, came close. By all accounts, his time at Bath wasn't all that flash either, so I'm going to scratch that one off. So how many have I left? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I think 8 is being pretty generous. I think 8 would have probably been a more realistic number to invite applications from, rather than 26. But yeah, that seems to be the road they're going down. They're going through their process. It's like one of those companies that just interviews everybody instead of doing a shortlist. So I've just shortlisted for you guys, All Blacks. There you go. Saved you a bit. To be fair, if I was being harsh, probably get rid of those 3 and just maybe Gatland as well. Just interview those 4. I think is most likely. But hey, again, I may play this video back in a month and find out that our head coach is John Mitchell and he's being assisted by Robbie Deans and Todd Blackadder. There you go. Who would my preference be? I think, I don't mean to jump on the Foster bashing train, but I think Scott Robertson has done a phenomenal job and needs to be involved somehow. He's too much of a talent not to get involved with an eye on the future. So if it is going to be Foster, at least somehow get Robertson in there as an assistant or whatnot. But yeah. Anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts, and I will talk to you again soon. See you later.